John, talk us through Greg Dyke and the conflicts with Heather Abats at the moment. She was very critical of his of the 8 people, 8 men, all of them whites, appointed to his FA commission into the future to save English football from oblivion. And he responded yesterday with an open letter to her.
This is a much bigger issue than, you know, when we're talking about football and race, than space monkey jokes. You know, these things that are right at the core of I think the problem that still exists in English football. I've got sympathy for the FA because it started off with such good intentions. You know, I think Dyke's right to try and look into English football's problems, despite qualifying for the World Cup. I think the idea of the Commission, you know, he's got to represent certain people, like, you know, the Football League, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I can understand some of the composition of the Commission, but to name eight members of a Commission, to have no, you know, black representation on it whatsoever was extraordinary for somebody of his savvy. Rabats, as the most prominent, well, the only black and female member of the FA board, has unsurprisingly come out and said that she can't be silent on this issue any longer, that she has to raise, that she has to complain. And you know, Dyke's response was making the point that he's got a good record on these things, but he has admitted that, you know, he has made a massive mistake. And where this leaves the FA is that, you know, they're going to try and name the next 2 members, the final 2 members of the Commission this week, I think. But when they do name them, and I think one of them, at least one of them, will be a famous former black footballer.
And if he wasn't, he will be.
Well, this is
if it wasn't, it will be. This is a problem.
I think it was always going to be, but it'll look like it's tokenism.
It'll look like it's a token.
And I think the worry actually might be that, you know, if you are a famous, you know, black ex-footballer, you might actually worry about being on this commission now, because you're not going to want to look like you've been brought in as a token. So
totally agree.
Dyke's argument knows that Clark Carlisle, chairman of the PFA, outgoing chairman of the PFA, had been invited onto it. But
he was, but that was a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Humphries is now on it.
You're right, actually.
Sorry, and who stopped that?
The PFA
wanted their new chairman to be on it.
But I mean, that happened a couple of weeks ago, from what I understand. So, you know, Clark Carlisle isn't the only person they could have asked. There has been a bit of a vacuum, and you know, reading between the lines, they must have problems nailing down who they're going to actually have on it, and they need to be credible names when they come out.
But if it's so important, Paul, why did Greg Dyke name 8 people in advance? Why didn't he wait until he had the entire commission set up?
Totally agree with you. No, I totally agree with you.
If this is so important...
absolutely bizarre. He's left himself open, hasn't he? And that's exactly what he should have done. You know, I think that, you know, behind the scenes, the Premier League were looking at this as well and thinking, you know, this is a bit of a joke. I mean, next minute, you know, there's been leaks into the papers, isn't there, of Jose Mourinho being involved, Arsene Wenger, because of this you know, but because of the way the Premier League's made up. I mean, you know, and I might, you know, excuse me for sort of like moving slightly away from the subject, but when you look at a recent England game, under-21s, where 150 people were watching, do people actually really care? You know, they want to see the best players in the Premier League. There is a real cultural problem, isn't there, with youngsters coming up in the English game now. And the best person, and I'll get accused of being biased towards him again, but the best person who's ever talked about the culture amongst youngsters is Harry Redknapp. And he talks brilliantly about why these kids are not coming through anymore. Because
I don't think he's going to be on the commission.
No, he won't be on the commission, but he talks very well about the subject, because he says, you know, he was a young player growing up when they had nothing, you know, and basically football was their lives. And it's not with kids anymore. It's not. They're just not motivated. They're motivated by other things, music, computer games and everything else. And the desire that players had in the past is not there with youngsters. But I diverse away from the commission.
Well, the main issue is they shouldn't...
There's a bit of a loving going on with you and Harry.
No, there's not. No. I knew exactly.
Paul, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I know you couldn't.
They just shouldn't have announced the composition of the commission until it was absolutely sorted out. There was no need to do this in dribs and drabs, and, you know...
I think but that's what they've done when they've been on the back foot, though, haven't they, Jonathan? Well, what they've done is they've then leaked out something else, haven't they? And said someone else is going to be involved. Sorry, go on.
No. I think they wanted to show that progress was being made. I just think and they have admitted this was a mistake, but if they needed to announce something at the Leaders in Football conference, which I think was the imperative, announce 5 of the names and keep 5 of them back.
Sure.
You know, don't announce 8 and then keep 2 of them back when the 8 are all old white blokes. I mean, that's crazy.
The Mail on Sunday suggesting some pretty big rifts in the FA because of this conflict between Rabats and Greg Dyke. Do you see it that way?
Well, there's a political element as well, because I think Helen Grant, the new sports minister, is come out very much in support of Rabats and is now going to look into the composition of the commission. So, you know, as I said at the start, you've got something that started off with very good intentions that has now become a problem in itself, and it's almost like starting an argument in an empty room. You know, the FA have been embroiled in some race problems that they haven't created and they've had to try and solve, but this is one that they've gone looking for, and I do have sympathy for them, because I do think at the bottom of it all there's something valuable being done here, but you know, they need to really move quickly to make this credible if the Commission's then going to be able to address some of the things Paul's talking about and the things it should.
And Dyke
also goes back to, you know, the appointment of an independent chairman as well, isn't it? You know. And their role in all of this, you know, it's all very well, you know, trying to be seen as proactive, but Dyke's got himself in an awful lot of trouble with this, you know, just by virtue of what you said, you know, and the fact that they've named these people, it's all white people, it's, you know, on top of the thing with Roy Hodgson, and you know, it's a right mess, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Dyke said that he delayed the announcement of the other 2 members of the Commission because of everything that surrounded Roy Hodgson and the half-time team talk.
But he's dug a deeper hole. Like we said, he's dug a deeper hole now, because now we know that there's going to be someone named who is probably, as Jonathan said, a black famous football player, and everyone's going to see it as, oh, he probably actually wasn't on there. They've just gone and done it as a reaction to this, and it's just not going to do him any good.
Well, how would that person, if that's correct, how will that person feel?
Exactly. That's what Jonathan said.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem with it. And you know, it'd be a pawn, won't they, in a big political row now?
Yeah, and you know, the FA's, or Dyke's saying that the Roy Space Monkey Gate thing delayed the announcement. That's a problem you get into when you leave yourself, you know, hostage to fortune. That's why, you know, the timing was so crazy, because there's actually now never going to be a good time to announce it.
No.
You know,
and if you were that black player and you know, famous footballer, you might have serious reservations about actually going on that board. In fact, if that was me, I would refuse to go on it, because you would leave yourself open to all sorts of accusations, wouldn't you? You would put away.
Unless they've already been approached prior to
but
this.
Even if they've been approached prior, Steve, it's not going to prevent people jumping on it and saying that wasn't the case. You know, you're going to be hung out to dry, aren't you, either way?
Yeah,
and that may well be the case, Steve. They may well have approached them a long, long time ago. It's just not going to look that way, is it?